Imagine waiting for a game, not for a few months, not for a normal delay, but for an entire decade. You finish school, you grow up, your PC changes 3 times, your favorite YouTuber disappears and comes back, and the game is still coming soon. In gaming, long development doesn't always mean a masterpiece. Sometimes it creates legends, sometimes disasters, and sometimes developers spend so long making a game that technology changes before they finish it. Today we're looking at games that took 10 years or more to develop, the projects that tested patience, budgets, and probably a few keyboards. And trust me, one of these games took so long that players started treating it like a myth instead of an actual release. When people talk about long development cycles, one game almost always appears first. Duke Nukem Forever development started in 1997. Simple enough. Except the game didn't launch until 2011. That's around 14 years. Now you might think they were making the greatest game in history. No, the biggest problem was they kept changing things. New engine, switch it. New graphics trend, update it. New technology, rebuild everything. Imagine renovating your room, then deciding halfway through to build a new house. Again and again. At some point, development became less of a project and more of a lifestyle. Players waited so long that the game became internet comedy. People joked, this game will release after flying cars. And then, it actually released. The result? People expected the future. They got a game from the past. Lesson learned. Sometimes perfection turns into endless restarting. Now let's talk about ambition. Cyberpunk 2077. People think development started near release. Not exactly. Early planning and production stretched across many years before launch. The dream: build a futuristic city where nearly everything feels alive. Characters, traffic, choices, story, technology. Basically, the developers looked at normal game development and said, what if we made things harder? For years, people imagined this game as gaming's next giant leap. Trailers looked unbelievable. Expectations became impossible. Then launch day arrived, and many players discovered their consoles were fighting for survival. Some players had bugs, some had glitches, some probably discovered physics that scientists still cannot explain. But here's the interesting part. Years later, updates transform public opinion, which means a long development doesn't guarantee failure. Sometimes it just means launch isn't the end. Now imagine announcing a game and then disappearing. That happened with Final Fantasy XV. Development history became legendary.
To crown the King of Light.
Originally announced under a different vision. Years passed, concepts changed, direction changed, technology changed, entire plans shifted, fans waited and waited and waited. At some point, people probably forgot whether they were waiting for a game or paying taxes, but eventually it launched. And despite the long road, many players appreciated the world, characters, and scale. This game became proof that development isn't always a straight line. Sometimes it's a maze. Sometimes it's a maze inside another maze. Some games don't take long because they're huge. Some take long because development becomes chaos. Enter Prey. Not the version people expected. Different teams, different ideas, different visions, years of changes, projects restarting, entire concepts disappearing. Game development can look glamorous from outside, but inside it sometimes looks like, who moved the folder? The final release became something entirely different from earlier expectations. And honestly, that happens more often than players realize. People see a trailer and think, just release it. But behind every game are thousands of decisions. Art, code, music, testing, fixes, and occasionally, developers discovering a bug caused by changing one line 6 months ago. Games aren't built overnight. Some are built over years. Some survive, some collapse, and some become legends before players even touch them. So next time a game gets delayed, remember somewhere, a developer is probably staring at a loading screen wondering where the last 10 years went. Comment below, which game do you think took way too long to make? And subscribe for more stories from gaming history.